After 34 years of marriage, my wife Dorothy abandoned me at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport with no money and no way home. I was sitting there wondering how I'd get back to Arizona when suddenly this old blind man next to me said, "Pretend you're my son. My driver will be here in 10 minutes, and your wife is going to regret leaving you next to the richest businessman in this state." I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like one of those stories you hear and think has to be fake. But I swear on my mother's grave that every word I'm about to tell you is true. And if you stick with me for a few minutes, you'll understand how that moment changed my life forever. My name is Victor Martinez. I'm 59 years old, and until that terrible Tuesday in March, I thought I knew what rock bottom felt like. 34 years married to Dorothy, 34 years working construction, then running my own auto repair shop in Phoenix. Getting up at 5 a.m. every day, coming home with grease under my nails and a sore back, all to give her a decent life, all to hear her complain it wasn't enough. That Tuesday started like any other disaster. I was flying to Denver to meet with a potential investor for my shop. Business had been rough for 2 years. The big chain stores were killing us small guys. I needed $120,000 to upgrade equipment and stay competitive. Dorothy drove me to the airport that morning. She barely said 10 words the whole ride. Just sat there scrolling through her phone, texting someone. When I asked who, she snapped at me. "None of your business, Victor." God, you're so paranoid. The meeting in Denver went nowhere. The investor took one look at my financial statements and basically laughed me out of his office. I called Dorothy from the gate to tell her I was coming home early. "Victor, we need to talk when you get back," she said. Her voice was different, cold. "Things can't keep going like this." "What things?" "Dorothy, what are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about. This shop is failing. We're broke. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine." I tried to calm her down. "Look, I know money's tight, but we'll figure it out. We always do." "No, Victor, we won't. Some of us are tired of living paycheck to paycheck because you're too stubborn to admit you failed." The line went dead. When I got to the check-in counter 20 minutes later, they told me my return ticket had been canceled by the passenger. That's when I checked my phone and saw the text. "Victor, I can't do this anymore. I've taken what I need from our accounts to start over. Don't try to follow me. It's over." I stood there staring at that message like an idiot. Our accounts. Plural. She'd cleaned us out. I had $23 in my wallet and 2 maxed out credit cards. Denver to Phoenix is 1,200 miles. I was stranded. I found a bench in the departure area and just sat there. 59 years old, broke, abandoned by the woman I'd given everything to. I put my head in my hands, and for the first time since my dad's funeral, I cried. That's when I heard the voice next to me. "Excuse me, son." I looked up. There was this older man sitting about 6 feet away. Had to be early 70s, wearing an expensive suit, dark glasses, and holding a white cane. A blind man. "You talking to me, sir?" "Yes, you." "I heard your phone call, and I heard you crying. I'm sorry about what just happened." I wiped my eyes, embarrassed. "Thanks, but I'll be okay." "No, you won't be okay, not right now. But you might be if you listen to me." Something in his voice made me pay attention. Calm, confident, like a man used to being listened to. "I need you to do something for me. When my driver gets here in a few minutes, I want you to pretend you're my son." I stared at him. "Pretend to be your son?" "Sir, I don't understand. My name is Nelson Crawford, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because you've probably seen it on buildings around Phoenix. I own Crawford Auto Parts, among other things." Crawford Auto Parts. Hell yes, I knew that. A name, biggest auto parts distributor in the Southwest. This guy had to be worth hundreds of millions. "Mr. Crawford, I appreciate the thought, but I can't." "You can, and you will, because your wife just made the biggest mistake of her life abandoning you like that, and she deserves to see what she threw away." Before I could argue, I heard footsteps approaching. A man in a black suit walked up to us. "Mr. Crawford, sorry for the delay. Terminal traffic was murder." "No problem, Eugene. I'd like you to meet my son, Victor." "Victor, this is Eugene Rodriguez, my attorney." He was in Denver on business too. Eugene looked confused for a split second, then recovered. Guy was a professional. "Nice to meet you, Victor. Your father's told me a lot about you." Nelson stood up, and I found myself helping him. "Eugene, Victor's going to be working with us from now on. Father and son, rebuilding the family business together. We walked to a black Mercedes SUV parked in the pickup zone. Eugene held the door while Nelson and I got in. The interior was all leather and wood trim, smelled like success. As we pulled away from the airport, Nelson spoke quietly. "Victor, I'm going to ask you something personal. Do you know anything about cars? About running a business?" "I've been fixing cars for 30 years, sir. Owned my shop for the last 12. And how's business?" I thought about lying, but what was the point? Terrible. That's why I was in Denver. Needed an investor to stay afloat. Nelson nodded. "The auto repair business is changing. The shops that survive are the ones that adapt. The ones with connections to reliable parts suppliers, quality equipment, proper financing." He paused. Things a partnership with Crawford Auto Parts could provide. My heart started pounding. "Mr. Crawford, why would you help me? You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you worked hard your whole life. I know your wife abandoned you when you needed support most. And I know something about being alone." His voice got quieter. "My only son Arthur died in Afghanistan 8 years ago. Since then, I've been running an empire with no one to leave it to. No one who understands what it means to work with your hands, to build something from nothing." Tears came to my eyes again. "Sir, I'm sorry about your son. Thank you. He was about your age when he died. Would have been 42 this year." Nelson reached over and squeezed my shoulder. "What I'm offering you isn't charity, Victor. It's a chance for both of us to rebuild what we've lost. Family." The drive to Nelson's house took 45 minutes. When we pulled through the gates, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A massive Adobe-style mansion surrounded by perfectly manicured desert landscaping. Must have been 12,000 square feet. "Welcome home, son," Nelson said. A woman in her 50s met us at the front door. Professional demeanor, kind eyes. "Mr. Crawford, you're back early. Beverly, I'd like you to meet Victor, my son. He'll be living with us while we work together on expanding the business." Beverly's eyebrows went up slightly, but she smiled. "Of course, sir. I'll prepare the guest wing. And Beverly, Victor's been through a difficult time. If anyone calls asking about him, you don't know anything." Inside, the house was even more impressive. Southwestern art, handcrafted furniture, a view of the mountains through floor-to-ceiling windows. Nelson led me to his study. "Sit down, Victor. We need to establish some ground rules. Mr. Crawford, call me Dad, at least when other people are around. It needs to be convincing." He sat behind a massive oak desk. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here while we set up a partnership between your shop and Crawford Auto Parts. We'll modernize your equipment, expand your space, give you access to wholesale pricing that'll cut your costs by 40%. I couldn't speak. This was beyond anything I'd imagined. In exchange, you'll run the new Martinez Crawford Auto Center, starting. Salary is $85,000 a year, plus profit sharing that should put you over $140,000 in the first year. This is too much. I can't. Yes, you can. And there's more. I'm 72 years old, Victor. I have no heirs. If this partnership works out, if we build the relationship I think we can build, everything I have will eventually be yours. The company, this house, everything." The room was spinning. 6 hours ago, I was broke and abandoned. Now, I was looking at becoming a millionaire. Why me? Why now? Nelson took off his dark glasses. His eyes were clouded over, completely blind. But when he turned toward me, it felt like he was looking straight into my soul. Because when I heard you on that phone, when I heard the pain in your voice, it reminded me of myself after Arthur died. Lost, broken, wondering if life had any meaning left. He put his glasses back on. And because something told me you're a good man who deserves a second chance. Over the next 3 days, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Dorothy calling and texting nonstop. I ignored every call until finally, Thursday night, I answered. "Victor, thank God. Where are you? I've been worried sick. Worried? You abandoned me in Denver, Dorothy. You stole our money and disappeared. I didn't steal anything. I took what I needed to. To what? To run off with Leonard Brooks." Silence on the other end. I'd hit the nail on the head. "How did you know about Leonard? Doesn't matter. What matters is, you made your choice. You wanted out? You're out. Victor, you don't understand. Leonard and I, we have a connection. He can give me things you never could. Security. A real future. Good for you. But you burned that bridge when you left me stranded. Don't call again. Wait, Victor. Where are you staying? People are asking questions. Your shop's been closed for 3 days. That's not your problem anymore, Dorothy. Sign the divorce papers when you get them. I hung up. Nelson was sitting in his chair by the window. Feel better? Actually, yeah. For the first time in years. Good, because tomorrow we start phase 2. Eugene's filed the divorce papers, claiming abandonment and theft of marital assets. We're also going to set up the new business partnership officially. The next morning, we drove to my old shop. The place looked even more run down than I remembered. Nelson walked through it with me, feeling the walls, listening as I described the equipment. This space has good bones, he said finally. With the right investment, we could triple your capacity. Eugene was waiting with contracts and a check for $120,000, working capital to get started. There's one more thing, Nelson said. I want you to call yourself Victor Crawford Martinez from now on. Hyphenated name. Makes the family connection clear. Dad, people are going to ask questions. Let them ask. Eugene will handle the legal details. As far as anyone needs to know, I recently reconnected with a son I'd lost touch with years ago. That afternoon, Dorothy showed up at the shop. I saw her through the window, walking around the place like she owned it. I let her look for a few minutes, then went outside. Dorothy, what do you want? Victor, what's going on? People are saying you're working with Nelson Crawford now. That you're his son? That's right. That's impossible. You never mentioned knowing anyone named Crawford. A lot of things are possible when you're not being held back. She looked confused, then angry. Held back? By who? By a wife who thought I was worthless, who complained about every dollar I spent, every risk I took, who abandoned me the first chance she got. Victor, I want to come home. Leonard and I, it's not working out. I made a mistake. No, Dorothy, you made a choice, and choices have consequences. A black Mercedes pulled up. Eugene got out and walked over. Mr. Crawford Martinez, your father's expecting you for dinner. Are you ready to go? Dorothy's eyes went wide. The Mercedes, the lawyer calling me by. Nelson's name, the obvious wealth and respect. Victor, wait. We need to talk about this, about the divorce, about the shop, about everything. The only thing we need to talk about is how fast you can sign those papers. I got in the Mercedes, and Eugene drove off, leaving Dorothy standing in the parking lot of what used to be our life together. At dinner that night, Nelson asked how I was feeling, confused, grateful. Still can't believe this is real. It's real. And it's going to get more real. Dorothy's going to fight the divorce. She'll claim you hid assets, that you cheated her out of what she's owed. How do you know? Because Eugene's been watching Leonard Brooks for years. The man's got a history of targeting married women, helping them divorce their husbands for a share of the assets. He's done it 3 times before. My blood went cold. You mean Dorothy's not the first? Not even close. Brooks finds women in struggling marriages, convinces them they deserve better, then helps. Them fleece their husbands in divorce court. So, this was all planned? From the moment she met him 8 months ago. 8 months. While I was working 12-hour days trying to save our business, she was planning to destroy our marriage. But here's the thing, Victor. We have something they don't know about. What's that? Security footage from the airport. Eugene was there on business, remember? His firm handles Crawford Auto Parts legal work. He filmed your entire conversation with Dorothy on the phone, recorded her abandoning you. That's evidence? Enough to prove abandonment. Combined with bank records showing she cleaned out your accounts while you were stranded, she won't see a penny in alimony. Over the next 6 months, the business transformation moved faster than I could have imagined. New equipment arrived weekly. We hired 4 more mechanics. The Martinez Crawford Auto Center reopened with lines of customers around the block. Dorothy kept calling, kept showing up. Each time more. Desperate. Victor, please. I'm living in a studio apartment. Leonard kicked me out. I have nothing. You have exactly what you chose, Dorothy. I chose wrong. Can't you forgive me? Can't we start over? Start over? After 34 years, you abandoned me like garbage. Some things can't be fixed. That's when my sister Margaret got involved. She called me at the shop one Tuesday morning. Victor, what the hell is going on? Dorothy says you're pretending to be some rich man's son? Hi, Margaret. Good to hear from you, too. Don't get smart with me. Dorothy's broke. She's asking me for money because her husband won't help her. I'm not her husband anymore. And since when do you care what happens to Dorothy? She's family, Victor. We stick together. Family. That was rich. Margaret hadn't spoken to me in 2 years, not since I couldn't lend her $10,000 for her kitchen remodel. Tell you what, Margaret, if you're so concerned about Dorothy, you help her. I can't afford to support her indefinitely. You need to do the right thing. I am doing the right thing. I'm building a life with people who actually care about me, people who care about you. Victor, wake up. This Crawford guy is using you. Rich people don't just adopt middle-aged mechanics out of the goodness of their hearts. Maybe not. But they also don't abandon them at airports. A week later, I got a call from Eugene. Dorothy had hired Patricia Rodriguez, one of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in Phoenix. She's claiming you committed fraud, that you hid assets during the marriage, that your relationship with Mr. Crawford is a sham to avoid paying alimony. Can she prove any of that? Not if we handle this right. But, Victor, there's something else. Your sister Margaret has agreed to testify on Dorothy's behalf. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. My own sister, willing to lie in court to help the woman who abandoned me. What's she going to say? That you were an abusive husband, that you isolated Dorothy from her family, that you planned this whole thing to cheat her out of a settlement. That's all lies. I know, and we can prove it. The divorce hearing was set for a Friday morning in November. Nelson insisted on coming with me. You don't have to do this, Dad. It's going to be ugly. That's exactly why I need to be there. You're my son now. Family supports. Family. The courtroom was packed. Dorothy sat at the plaintiff's table with Patricia Rodriguez looking like a victim. Margaret was in the gallery, glaring at me like I was the devil himself. Patricia Rodriguez spoke first. She painted me as a manipulative con artist who'd seduced an elderly blind man into a fake adoption to hide assets from my wife. Mr. Crawford Martinez claims to be the adopted son of Nelson Crawford, but there's no evidence this relationship existed before Mrs. Martinez filed for divorce. The timing is suspicious at best, criminal at worst. Then she called Margaret to testify. Miss Porter, how would you describe your brother's marriage? Troubled. Victor was always angry, always blaming Dorothy for their problems. He became increasingly controlling and abusive as their business failed. Did you ever witness this abuse? Many times. He would scream at her, threaten her, make her feel worthless. Every word was a lie, but she said it with such conviction that I could see the judge listening carefully. In your opinion, would Victor Martinez be capable of staging a fake relationship to avoid paying his wife what she's owed? Absolutely. My brother has always been selfish and manipulative. When it was Eugene's turn, he stood up slowly. Your Honor, the defense has several pieces of evidence that completely contradict everything we've just heard. He set up a laptop connected to a large screen. First, security footage from Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport on the day Mrs. Martinez abandoned her husband. The video played. Clear as day, you could see Dorothy getting out of our car, barely. Speaking to me, then walking away after 5 minutes. Then the audio of our phone conversation, where she told me she was taking our money and leaving. As you can see, Your Honor, Mrs. Martinez was not abandoned. She was the one who did the abandoning. Margaret's face went white. Dorothy stared at the screen like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Second, bank records showing Mrs. Martinez systematically transferred $26,000 from joint accounts into a personal account she shared with one Leonard Brooks, a man with a documented history of targeting married women. Eugene put up bank statements, transfer records, dates, and times. And third, regarding Miss Porter's testimony about witnessing abuse, Eugene smiled. Your Honor, Miss Porter lives in Tucson, 120 miles from Phoenix. According to phone records, she spoke to her brother exactly 4 times in the 2 years before this divorce. She has never been to his house during his marriage to Mrs. Martinez. Margaret was shaking now. The judge was looking at her with obvious anger. Miss Porter, do you want to revise your testimony? I may have been mistaken about some details. Mistaken or lying under oath. The judge turned to Patricia Rodriguez. Counselor, do you have any evidence that doesn't rely on perjured testimony and contradicted facts? Your Honor, if I could have a brief recess? No recess. I've heard enough. The judge looked at Dorothy with disgust. Mrs. Martinez, you abandoned your husband of 34 years while he was stranded 1,200 miles from home. You stole marital assets to fund an extramarital relationship. You then filed a frivolous lawsuit based on false testimony. He turned to Margaret. Miss Porter, I'm referring your testimony to the district attorney's office for possible perjury charges. Finally, he looked at me. Mr. Crawford Martinez, I'm granting you a divorce based on abandonment. Mrs. Martinez receives no alimony, no property settlement, and no claim on any assets you've acquired. Since the separation, this court also awards you $32,000 in punitive damages and legal fees. Dorothy started crying. Real tears this time, not the fake ones she'd been using in court. Your Honor, I have nothing. No job, no savings, nowhere to live. You should have thought of that before you abandoned your husband, Mrs. Martinez. Outside the courthouse, Margaret tried to approach me. Victor, please. I was trying to help Dorothy. She convinced me you'd lost your mind, that this Crawford thing was some kind of breakdown. Help her? By lying in court, by trying to destroy my reputation. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. You made a choice, Margaret, just like Dorothy did. And choices have consequences. Eugene handed her an envelope. Miss Porter, you're being served with a civil suit for defamation. The Crawford family doesn't tolerate attacks on their reputation. She stared at the papers. Victor, I'm your sister, your only family. No, you were my sister. My only family is the man who was here today supporting me while my blood relatives tried to destroy me. Nelson put his hand on my shoulder. Come on, son. Let's go home. That was 2 years ago. Today I'm the CEO of Crawford Martinez Auto Centers. We have 3 locations across Arizona. Annual revenue of $6.8 million and 28 employees. Nelson officially adopted me last spring. When the judge signed the papers making me Victor Crawford Martinez, I cried like a baby. So did Nelson. Now you're legally my son, he said, and I'm legally your father. You were always my father, Dad. From that day at the airport, Dorothy works as a cashier at a Walmart in Tucson. She's living in a 1-bedroom apartment, driving a 15-year-old Honda. Leonard Brooks dumped her the day after the divorce hearing and moved on to his next target. She sends me birthday cards every year. I throw them away without opening them. Margaret was convicted of perjury and sentenced to 200 hours of community service. Her husband Harold left her after the trial. She lost her real estate license and now works part-time at a call center. She sends me Christmas cards every year. I throw them away without opening them. Last month, I was back at Phoenix Sky Harbor on business. I walked past the gate where my life changed, sat on the same bench where I met my real father. A young couple was arguing nearby. The woman was yelling at the man, calling him a failure, a loser. The guy looked broken, defeated, just like I did 2 years ago. I walked over and handed him my business card. If you ever need a job, call me. Everyone deserves a second chance. As I walked away, I thought about that terrible Tuesday when Dorothy abandoned me. At the time, it felt like the end of my world. Now I know it was actually the beginning of my real life. Every morning, Nelson and I have breakfast together, planning the day's business. Every evening, we sit on the back patio watching the sunset over the mountains, talking about Arthur, about family, about the empire we're building together. He's teaching me about his other investments, real estate, technology stocks, energy companies. When he's gone, I'll inherit an empire worth over $180 million. But more than that, I inherited something money can't buy. I inherited a father who chose me, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out what you're really worth. My name is Victor Crawford Martinez. I'm 59 years old, and I learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who's there when you have nothing left to offer except your heart. That blind man at the airport couldn't see with his eyes, but he saw exactly what I needed, a father, and I gave him exactly what he needed too, a son. Today we run a $6.8 million business together, but more than that, we built something money can't buy. We built a family that chose each other instead of being stuck with each other, and that, my friends, makes all the difference in the world. The people who abandon you when you're down often reveal themselves as the biggest blessing in disguise. They clear the path for those who truly deserve to be in your life. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought mattered to discover what actually matters. And when you rebuild from nothing, you build it right the first time.